without question what's happening in America, and it's something that is disturbing because it creates a lot of stress. Money can be liberating, but money can also be stressful if you don't have enough. If you're worried about money, and this weekend I had a great time, by the way, speaking with. I came to the Black Wealth Summit, and I got to give them a shout out from the Black Wealth Summit, which was hosted by a pastor by the name of Akeisha Jefferson. Akeisha Jefferson, she's a pastor down here in the DC, Maryland, DC area, and she went to Bowie State, her alma mater, and she paid money out of her own pocket to host this conference on wealth for Black wealth. And she said that it was expensive and difficult, and God told her to do it. And I said, you know what? I understand exactly what you're talking about because God tells me to do stuff all the time too. And when God tells me to do it, I listen, even though I don't know how I'm going to get it done. And I said, it's funny because God told me to do the All Black National Convention. And how do I know that it came from God? Well, because the idea for the convention, actually, which I'd never had a convention in my life, the idea for the All Black National Convention came to me when I literally went to sleep and I just woke up and the idea and the name of the convention just came. It was like you have to have a convention called the All Black National Convention. And I picked up the phone. I got up and I called my friend Lene Javette, Dr. Lene Javette, and I said, "Okay, Lene, we're going to have a conference and a convention, and it's going to be called the All Black National Convention." So I had the idea and the name and all that stuff. And I said, I'd like to do it in about 3 weeks. And don't ask me why. I said 3 weeks because I was stupid, because I'd never done a convention before. I didn't know that it takes more than 3 weeks to plan something like that. And but we pulled it off and it was amazing. We had a lot of great people there. The rapper Killer Mike came out, David Banner came out. We had a lot of great thinkers and attorneys. Judge Olu Stevens, if you know him from Kentucky, he's a really strong judge that really stood up for black people. Judge Olu Stevens was there. Attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz was there. There were so many great people there. I can't remember everybody who spoke. Monica Ogando, Dr. Monica Ogando. We had about 15, 20 speakers. I have no idea how we did it. I literally have no idea. We just did it and it got done and it happened and that's what it was and that's pretty much it. So anyway, also I want to say thank you to Amani. Amani's on our team, our support team. So if you have any questions about the Black Business School, Monty can answer your questions right there in the chat, or you can keep the email address for our support team nearby. And that email address is support@theblackbusinessschool.com. That's support@theblackbusinessschool.com. So shout out to Bowie State for hosting us this weekend. I don't know if y'all saw, I put a video on my Twitter. My Twitter is Dr. Boyce Watkins 1, Dr. Boyce Watkins is the number one. And also my Instagram, which is Dr. Boyce Finance. So on my Instagram, Dr. Boyce Finance, I put a little video where they had these cheerleaders that were cheering like for Black wealth, and he came through and they had this little cheer song, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. It really felt good, and it was really great to like get that energy from like young people, to just see how many young people there are. I met a lot of 20 somethings who are already on the path to building wealth, and I said, you're doing the exact right thing. And the reason I wanted to make sure I told them that is because so many people are trained to do the wrong thing. I said, you're getting good information because so many people are not getting information. So many people aren't even looking for information. While we certainly had a nice turnout at the Black Wealth Summit, I just was thinking, wow, this is so interesting that if this was a rap concert, there would be 50,000 people here, right? And I can tell you, I've never ever in my life, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, I've never ever in my life been to a rap concert that ever taught a black person how to survive financially in this society. Give me a yes or no if you agree with this. I've never in my life been to a concert where black people are learning the skills that they need for economic survival. Yet that's our number one problem. I've never been to a nightclub where they were preparing you to survive in a racist society, right? And I want you to understand the hypocrisy of this. I want you to understand just what this is. What's happening here is that people are asleep. They stay asleep until they get slapped in the face. They stay asleep until the world wakes them up. They stay asleep until Donald Trump gets in office, and suddenly they're like, "Oh, I gotta survive that," right? Well, you've been asleep. Now you're waking up. The whole plan was being executed but while you were asleep. The whole project 2025 was being planned in 2021, in 2019, in 2014. And I was around in 24. We were talking about an economic plan in 2014. I've been doing this for 30 years. I taught my first finance class in 1993 at the University of Kentucky. I've been talking about the black economic issue since I was in my 20s, and I'm not in my 20s anymore. I got gray in my beard. And you weren't listening to nobody. Not just I'm not saying you should listen to me. You weren't listening to nobody. So now you want to go into panic mode. Now you want to freak out and say, "Oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't make it. It's so scary. It's so hard to be black." Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I say you should probably have a plan. Am I being mean when I talk like this? What do y'all think? I mean, do you think that do you think that I'm being mean when I say things like what do you think? Or am I just being realistic? I don't want to be mean because it hurts people's feelings when you say, "Why are we being stupid?" Like I don't know how to say it any other way except for the plain way. What do y'all think? I mean, is that I because I get people there are people that tell me, "Boy, you shouldn't be mean." And I try not to be. And I don't think I'm a mean person. I think I'm a serious person when it comes to serious things, right? Like the fact that that the white man done had his foot on our neck for the last 400 years, and I'm not interested in living like that. I again, maybe that's radical talk. I have no idea. But when you talk about why most Americans live paycheck to paycheck, I almost want you to understand that when you train your children for that, when you don't give your children, let's talk about the kids because the kids matter more than we do. When you don't give your children like basic financial literacy when they're young, if their educational process does not consist of a really solid economic plan, what you're doing is you're training them to starve. That's what you're doing. I mean, I know it's harsh, but that's what you're doing. You're training them to starve. You're preparing them to struggle. You're basically saying, "F you, I screw you, I don't care about you. I don't even I can't not only can I not be disciplined for myself, but I can't even be disciplined for you. I don't even love you enough to even try to make a plan for you. I'm just gonna throw you out there. I'm gonna send you to school so these wonderful white people from the suburbs can miseducate you, not teach you a damn thing, not teach you no trade, not she teach you any business skill, not teach you how to make any money, not teach you how to survive. Now, I mean, they're not gonna teach you nothing. I mean, I'm sorry, and I know that sometimes sometimes and this is what when I talk like this is what scares white people. This is why I don't have a lot of white friends. This is why my neighbors probably are scared of me because they all Google each other and stuff. I'm sure my neighbors have all Googled me by now. And but you know, but I'm gonna tell you, I don't have nothing against white people. I have a DEI program in my. I'm kidding. We got affirmative action for y'all. But in all seriousness, though, I met a nice white lady at the Black Wealth Summit. She was from Fox News, and she had all these questions about finances and stuff. And I sat and I answered all her questions. And I love this lady. She came up and ran up with her little app and said, "Okay, Dr. Watkins, here's what I did. I set it up. And I'm buying and I'm investing." And she was the sweetest lady ever. You know, so look, I don't have no problem with white people as long as you're sweet. If you're sweet like this lady, we're good. But you come up in there with that white supremacy stuff. You come up with a big old oppression sandwich and that you're trying to feed me. I might kick you in the face. Like I'm gonna fight you. I'm not that guy. I'm from Louisville, Muhammad Ali. Like that's what I was raised on. So we don't bow down to that kind of stuff. So that's what it is, right? That's what I'm saying. So let me keep going though. Let me just be honest with you. Here's the rope a dope. Millions of us are trained to send our kids to these horrible public schools that don't teach them how to read, write, or do math. They give them no trades, no skills. Why is it so hard to put a program in there that's going to teach them how to do carpentry or or fix a car or do some plumbing, right? Why what's wrong? What's happening here? What's that? Because you know what the majority of them, a lot of them can't go to college. A lot of them aren't cut out for college, and the ones that do go to college are going to graduate. A big percentage of them are, half of them, and the half that graduate are going to half of that half are going to default on their student loans. You do know that, right? The half of all black college graduates default on their student loans. Half of all black college graduates, these are the talented 10th. These are supposed to be the rich Negroes. These are the ones supposed to be the most successful. Half of all black college graduates cannot repay their student loans. So half of all black college graduates are caught in a debt trap that they cannot escape. And those are the good ones. Those are the ones who made it out the trap, but you didn't make it out the trap. You just walked into a bigger trap. You're just in a different trap. See, they got different traps. This it's like tiers. Tiers of trapping. They should be white people should be making trap music with T.I. They should be in the booth just rapping because they got the trap music thing down. So, and it's not all white people. It's really the oppressive racist capitalists who pretty much see the black community as a target that allows them easy exploitation. Now, let me stop talking like that and let me go ahead and give you some stats to back this up. And let me stop coughing because I'm choking a little bit. My apologies for that. All right, so here's some data to help you understand how bad the issue is. And I'm gonna talk about all Americans. I'm not even really just talking about black people. I'm gonna talk about all Americans. And I looked up some research, and basically, 64% of all Americans live paycheck to paycheck. That's according to Lending Club. 64%. So two-thirds of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, even high earners, even those making over $100,000 a year, nearly half struggle to cover expenses. Give me a yes if you agree if that's a problem. Give me a yes if you agree that that's not something that we want for the kids. Can we get on the same page with that? Can you give me like a confirmation that this is not appropriate? This is not cool. This is not where we want to be. We want to grow out of that. Um, Number two, only 32% of US households follow a detailed monthly budget. 56% of Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency expense. 56% have. The average credit card debt per household is $6,360. The US personal savings rate has dropped to 3.9%, far below the recommended 10 to 15% for financial security. 60%, 60%, 60% of millennials and Gen Z say that they stress about money daily. So 60% of the millennials and Gen Zers, if you're a millennial or a Gen Zer, raise your hand. How many of y'all would consider yourself to be a millennial or a Gen Zer? And some of y'all, you can just lie if you want to. If you're like 60 and you want to be a millennial, that's okay. You can do that in this room. How many of you are millennial or Gen Z? Any millennials or Gen Zs up in here? Um, if you're in that category, it's unfortunate because 60% of you are stressing out over money on a daily basis. So instead of enjoying your youth, instead of saying, hey, I'm 33 years old and popping, instead of saying, hey, I'm 26 and I'm at the peak of my life and life is wonderful, you're struggling. And this is an intergenerational problem. This is what I refer to as almost like a financial STD that gets passed from one generation to the next and it doesn't go away because it's not addressed. It's not acknowledged. And we talk about that. We talk about what the real DEI is. The real DEI, which is development, entrepreneurship, and investment. Development, entrepreneurship, and investment means you're developing the kinds of youth that you want to see that can be successful in the world. Entrepreneurship means every black child in America should have some training in entrepreneurship so they can be successful and survive in case they lose their job. And then investment means that the things you pour into are the things that will grow. The things you invest in are the things that will survive. If I plant two flowers and I water one and then I don't water the other one flower is going to thrive, one flower is going to live, the other flower is going to shrivel up and die. So the question I always ask people is, what are you invested in? What are you investing in? You got children. Are you investing in the children? Because here's the thing, I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm not saying that it's anybody's fault. I'm not trying to place blame on anyone. But if you have a 27-year-old who is stressing out over money on a daily basis, I really want to ask an intergenerational question. I want to say, who taught you about money when you were a kid? Who took over the curriculum? Did you have a father or a mother who said, no, we're not leaning on what this crappy public school run by white women from the suburbs is going to teach you. You're a black man. I need you to survive as a black man. I don't want you out here breaking the law, thugging out, killing people, taking penitentiary chances so you can get a couple of dollars. So we're going to make sure that we override the educational system. We're going to override that process. I'm going to sit there and we're going to sit down. We're going to talk. I'm going to bring you with me to Dr. Watkins' class. It's free every morning at 10 a.m., whatever it is, right? We're going to do something that's going to make sure that you have the essential skills that you need to be successful. I'm a father of daughters. I do not want my daughters out there sleeping with dusty ass 60-year-old men so they can get $500 to pay the rent. That is a reflection on me as a dad. That is a reflection on me on our family. We're not doing that. We're not having, no, you're not going to be on the stripper pole unless somehow you just love dancing that much. And I got a little dancer in the house, and me and my wife are like, okay, we got to keep the baby off the pole because she likes to dance. But I'm playing, I'm kidding. But if she ever chose to get on the pole, which I hope that she does not, if she did, then it wouldn't be because she needed the money. It would be because maybe she just wanted to do it, right? Which let's pray for her, please. Pray for us. Anyway, with the point on that is that you have to make sure that you understand what's happening. We have to really sort of dissect the process. This is a problem. This is a financial cancer that is in not just in America, but in the Black community. So you know for a fact that if 64% of all Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, that probably means that 85% of all Black people are living paycheck to paycheck. Would you not agree with a statement like that? That 70 to 80% of Black people are probably doing that. If they say all people are 64%, Black people are probably in that 70, 80% range. When white folks get a cold, we catch pneumonia. So whatever they're going through, we're probably going through something that's worse. So, or like when I tell you that 60% of millennials and Gen Zers stress about money daily, I bet you that for Black millennials and Black Gen Zers, that number's more like 75 or 80%. Because I see what y'all talk about on the internet. I watch those balloon popping shows, which is the dumbest way on earth to pick a partner. It's crazy to pop a balloon in 30 seconds because you don't think he's tall enough, or to pop a balloon and because because her booty ain't big enough. That you're setting yourself up for failure when you do it that way, by the way. And then I also hear these crazy conversations, these 50-50 conversations. I told you how I was shocked when the young lady told me, 32 years old, beautiful, told me that she went on a date and the bill was $20 and the Negro wanted to split the bill 50-50. I said, you know what? I'm not here to, I believe in pro-choice. I believe you can choose to do whatever you want to do with your body, but I hope that you would never sleep with a man that is so financially stressed out and so financially ridiculous that he gonna go 50-50 on a $20 bill. But then that's my bias. I just thought that was crazy. And I also thought to him, I would say, why would you pass up a chance if you think this woman's awesome? Maybe he didn't like her or something. I don't know. But if this is potentially the mother of your kids, you should pay the whole $20. I think that's okay because most of the research shows that a man's ability to display some degree of financial intelligence and financial security is a factor that impacts his attraction. I talked about this in my book, Financial Lovemaking. I did research on this. You can't get around it. You just can't. You can't. You can't. Biologically, women for 100,000 years have been biologically wired to be attracted to men who have resources. You know how I learned this? You know how I really understand what people want? I watch shows like Animal Kingdom or the Discovery Channel and stuff where they have animals. Animals, they don't go to college. Animals don't vote Democrat or Republican. Animals don't become like liberal or conservative. Animals just do what's natural, right? So here's what I watch. Here's what I notice with animals, and this is true with most mammals. Are you talking about gorillas, giraffes, elephants, rhinos, whatever? Typically, the male that is the most attracted to the female is the male who's got all the stuff. The male who can dominate the other males, control the most important territory, and has the most property, food, hunting, gathering skill is the one that all the females are like, oh, I want to have a baby with him. I need him to be my baby daddy. That's just the truth, right? So I've seen so many interesting examples, but I'll just name one. I could talk about this all day because it's so fascinating. You got to watch this. All right. So there was these giraffes, and this male giraffe. They didn't have they like giraffes are not like they're not like they don't get their freak on like year round. They're not like humans. They kind of have a mating season. Like there's like a scheduled time of the year where you get together and you make a baby and then you do whatever. I don't know what they do the rest of the year because I'm not an expert on giraffes. But there was this giraffe, this big male giraffe who was like kind of the king. He was like the man. He had all the money and all the stuff, but he didn't have money because giraffes don't have money. But he had land. He had the most land. And because he had a lot of territory, the females would come. Two of them would come to mate with him and be like, "Yeah, he's going to be our baby daddy." And so he comes in, or he's waiting, and he's looking like his neck is out there, and he's looking over the trees and for the wind. He's like, "Where the ladies at? The ladies coming?" And the ladies are coming. He sees the two ladies, but then he sees like this other male, this other dude who's like a young buck, who's like I'm about to take your women and I'm about to fight you for these women. And it was really crazy to watch them fight. The refs fight with their necks. I don't know if you've ever seen how they fight. It's crazy. They swing their necks at each other because I guess they can't like punch and stuff. So anyway, these two giraffes, it's the OG with all the land, was fighting the young dude who was basically like, I want to be the man now. You got to go. And the women didn't help. The women didn't say, well, that's my baby daddy. I'm going to stand up for him. Like they literally sat back and just watched. Like the female giraffes were just watching because they were literally like, well, who's going to win the fight? Because we clearly don't want to mate with a loser. We don't want the loser. We want the winner. That's what they did. That's insanity, right? That's ain't nobody loyal out here. So, and my point is to say that when you're talking about life, I really believe, fundamentally speaking, just my instincts talking in terms of the all the research and stuff I've read over the last 30 years, I believe that the world doesn't really like losers that much. And I think that the world, this is why the world is structured to make the black man into a loser. The world is structured to say, okay, how do we make sure we grab this little black boy? We're gonna make sure he don't learn nothing. We're gonna make sure that he's blind, deaf, dumb, and stupid by the time he's a teenager. We're gonna inundate the media with the most ridiculous imageries that a person could ever see. We're gonna give him the worst role models ever. We're gonna introduce him to some old raggedy ass, blunt smoking, liquor drinking, drug dealing, ignorant, buffoonish, money spending, criminalized buffoon. And we're going to make that his role model so that he won't be competing with us. He's not going to be over competing with Elon Musk building rocket ships and all that. He's going to be over here with the thugs and the gangsters and the buffoons and the clowns and the losers. Again, this is society, right? If you notice, pay attention. The highest paid black men in America tend to be athletes, entertainers, let's see, rappers, comedians, and athletes. That's pretty much all you get. Rappers and like so for 30 years we had to sit there and watch Diddy dance around like a clown, it was a minstrel show. That's what it was. And but then next thing you know, Diddy's on the cover of Forbes as some model of black excellence. I'm gonna just tell you the truth. I never, ever, ever, not once thought Diddy was black excellence. I used to watch Diddy in the 90s when he would wear those weird ass, gay ass, shiny ass suits and dance and all that. And I was like, this is stupid. That's not a man to me. I grew up in the house with a real man. That's my daddy. I can't imagine my daddy dancing around in a shiny suit. But those who never saw a real man, who never really knew what success is supposed to look like for a male, would look at that and say, "Ooh, I want to be like that. I want to be like Diddy." So next thing you know, you got, a million Negroes running around dancing in shiny suits, right? Talking, fast talking, not no follow through, no nothing, right? So my point is to say that I think that there's a goal here to keep you in a trap. There's a goal to keep you blind, deaf, dumb, and ignorant. There's a goal to make sure that you stay as broke as possible because broke people don't have options. Broke people can't make choices. Broke people can't do much of anything. Broke situation struggle. The struggle is something that a lot of us go through for sure, but it's not something that we should be inheriting from our own family, right? I inherited the struggle from my biological father, who unfortunately was not the man that he could have been. I'm not going to say he was a loser. I felt for a long time I felt like he was a loser, but I've learned from my therapist that I have to give him a little bit of grace because maybe he wasn't prepared for life. I have no idea, but I do know that if he had been a different kind of man, I would have had more resources to start my life off with. I would have been in a better situation. I would have been prepared a little bit better. I had a stepfather that stepped in and said, "I'm gonna do this other man's job." And he did the best he knew how to do, but I still think that there's more, right? I think that when you're talking about the severity of how the economy works, I really think that you have to make sure that you put the first things first. Economic training should be at the top of the priority list when it comes to our kids. If you don't include some sort of consistent economic exposure to children in their educational process, you're not preparing them to succeed. You're preparing them to struggle because what you're basically saying is, I'm not going to give you any resources. I'm not going to train you on how to independently acquire resources. The only thing I'm going to prepare you to do, the only thing I'm getting you ready to do, the only thing you're going to know how to do is go beg a white man for a job. That's it. Like that's it. Your job, your goal, and what you will be able to accomplish will be able to is to fill out an application and to dress nice and to show up and smile and say what Elon Musk wants you to say or whoever's running the company so that they will hire you. Tell me if I'm telling the truth or lying. Tell me if I'm seriously. Think about how many millions of our people, all they know how to do when it comes to making money is fill out the application and apply for the job. They don't know who the owner of the company is, and it's usually a white person, right? So why would we do that? Why that doesn't that particular economic model does not work. It leaves you not just stressed out financially, but also even if you are in a position where you get some semblance of financial security, you still aren't fulfilled. You still don't feel complete. You get the job, and it's interesting. It reminds me of that video I saw where there was a lady who was in a car crying, and she said something like, "This is when you're driving to work for the job that you prayed for, but the job that you prayed for has you crying right now. You're crying." Over the job that you prayed for. So that means that if you didn't get the job that you prayed for, you'd be crying and praying to get this job. And now that you've cried and prayed to get the job, you got the job, you got the blessing, you got the big win, and your ass is still crying. How in the hell does that work? How does that work? How in the hell is it that either you're crying because you didn't get the job or you're crying because you did? That means either way, according to the black economic model that is taught to us from children as children, we are trained to be crying no matter what. We always whining. I heard a great speaker at the Wealth Summit. I don't remember the brother's name, but he was a pastor. He said black people love to cry. He said we be whining like Keith Sweat. I said, man, you are right. We are good at what white people. That's how many all that whining ain't gonna fix nothing. That whining is a drug. That's opium. That's like when Nietzsche talked about opium for the masses. Like that whining and crying, all it does is it kind of makes you feel better. Crying does make you feel better. When I get sad, every now and then I would cry. Like when my beloved mother passed, I cried and I told my wife, I said, it's funny. You would think that when I'm crying, I'm feeling bad, but actually I feel better. I said, y'all women have a little secret. This crying thing kind of gets it out of you, right? So I get it. Like we cry because it gets it out of us. But the question is it actually solving the problem? Or are you just creating a pathway for just more crying? Are you going to just cry through life? Is that it? Just cry all the time? There has to be a solution. What is a solution? That's the million-dollar question. So let me and I will give you the solution, I promise you. But I want to lean into like some more stats to help you understand the severity of what you're dealing with. Now, the first thing I want to remind everybody of is if you are not on the text list for this class, text the word morning to the number 87948. So text morning to the phone number 87948, or you can go to drboyceelevate.com if you live in another country, drboyceelevate.com. A few things. One, I'll send you some stuff later on today. I'll send out a text of some stuff that I have that might help you and your family in terms of preparing for your economic future. And then second of all, we are going to go to Ghana this summer. I want to remind everybody of that. So if you want to travel with us as a group, just text the word travel to that same phone number, 87948. So text travel to 87948, and I'll send you information on our trip to Ghana. All right, so here are some sort of broader dynamics. And remember, when I've explained to you all before that the American economy is not really built for workers to be financially secure. It's not. It's just not designed that way. I think it's not an accident that public schools don't teach trades. It's not an accident that most public schools don't teach financial literacy. I think it's because if you are broke and desperate and on the edge of economic collapse, you're easier to control that way. It's much easier to convince somebody to get up and go to work every day if they are not financially secure. And remember, capitalism does not work without people that you can exploit that are at the bottom of the system. That's why I refuse to call myself a capitalist because I don't agree with that at all. I think it's wrong, but at the same time, I can't change the system. I can only tell you how to survive in it. So here are a few stats or a few facts that will tell you why a lot of Americans struggle. And these are more systematic, not just specifically on the individual. I don't want you to think that I'm blaming poor people for being poor or broke people for being broke, but I can tell you that there are solutions, and I encourage you to look for those solutions. So, number one, stagnant wage growth. Over the past few decades, real wages for most Americans, real wages adjusted for inflation, have actually declined. So, what the corporations do, what the government does, Democrat and Republican, is they refuse to do little things like increase the minimum wage at the rate of inflation. So what you'll find is that your paycheck stays the same, whereas the price of everything keeps going up, which is kind of like a way of saying that your paycheck is actually declining. So a lot of the jobs that used to do, pay pretty well, that used to give you enough for a good living back in the 1960s, don't do that anymore because they busted up labor unions and also they pretty much undermined the power of the American worker. This is because the wealthy people in this country took over the government, basically. Now your government is a capitalist government. That's why if you go to the Democrats and say, hey, you're Democratic, why don't you guys get together and raise the minimum wage? They won't do it, right? Well, why would they do that? Well, Nancy Pelosi's worth a couple $100 million. She's not really connected to what poor people go through. So this idea that one party or the other is going to really help the average American worker, I think, is false. Both parties could give a damn about the average American worker. It's very unfortunate. Number two, high necessity spending. Many households allocate a significant portion of their income to essential expenses like housing, utilities, and childcare. So basically, what's happened is as inflation's creeped in, the cost of just the necessities has really gone up as a percentage of your paycheck, and that's just the reality. And so the elevated cost of living, things like that, have been have really been part of the culprit in terms of making it harder for people to survive. So here's what you're looking at. Here's what you're looking at as intelligent Black people. You're dealing with a world that's becoming more and more economically complex. You're dealing with a world where the margin of error economically is much smaller. You're dealing with a world that is faster paced economically, like you're running a race. And before everyone in the race was running at 10 miles an hour, now everyone in the race has to run 20 miles an hour in order to have a chance to keep up. What does this mean? Well, it does mean that there are injustices everywhere. There's no doubt about it. But the fact that there are solutions out there means that I would say that smart people would look for those solutions, right? And also, if you can give the kids, for example, you talk about millennials and Gen Zers that are struggling economically, you give them a head start by investing for them when they're children. We've talked about the $5 a day plan. If you haven't seen it, just go to blackwealthmasterplan.com. That's blackwealthmasterplan.com. So somebody type that in the chat so everybody can see it. Blackwealthmasterplan.com. That's the $5 a day plan. So if I got a newborn baby, and I know they're going to walk out into the economic storm when they become an adult, I am going to ensure that I am participating in this economy as quick as possible. Because here's the thing about America that's really interesting. America has a lot of financial inequality. America has millions of people that are right there in the struggle, but America also has a ton of money. It has a ton of money. And that's the part that is so confusing, right? It's like, well, if America has so many people struggling, why wouldn't America be poor? How can America be the richest country in the world when you got millions of people that are struggling? Well, it's because you have a society that has become more capitalist. Rich people don't want to share their money. When Martin Luther King used to talk about the redistribution of wealth, what they first thing they said is, "You must be a communist, sir. That's a communist," right? But really, any logical person understands that America needs to redistribute wealth and also that America can redistribute wealth and still stay very wealthy. Like Elon Musk has $440 billion. He could give away $100 billion and still have $340 billion left, right? He could still be extremely ungodly rich, like rich beyond anybody's imagination. You could take 95% of his wealth and he would still have more money than anybody, any human being would need over 100 lifetimes. So the idea that you've got that those extremities, that you have some people that have everything and so many people that have nothing, that is a great crime in America. That's the great crime of capitalism. I'm not anti-capitalist because I don't see where socialism or communism can really necessarily be better. I just don't believe that. I've seen communist societies crumble, right? And again, maybe it's because of outside influence. I have no idea, but I personally don't want to live in a society like that. But at the same time, I think free enterprise, where you have just enough free enterprise and freedom for people to kind of do what they want to do, while at the same time having social safety nets and protections for everyone, that's the best society. But here's the deal. Let's get back to reality, though. See, you've got this idea of what the world should be, right? We know what the world should be, but then there is a pragmatism that says, okay, we got to deal with the way the world is. And I'm a pragmatist. I'm the guy who says, yeah, we can dream and fantasize for a little while, But that ain't right. It shouldn't be like that. Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm kind of bored. I'm getting exhausted. I'm getting emotionally exhausted whining about what the world should be. I want to talk about what the world is. And then I want to talk. And then if you want to fantasize and dream, I choose to dream about, I choose to have dreams that I believe I can turn into a reality. Right? If I'm a dream about something, I'd like for it to be a dream where I have some influence on the outcome of that dream. Does that make sense? Right? Like if you have me dream about America becoming a socialist society or something, like that's a big dream. I don't dream like that because I don't control the government. I don't even know anybody on Capitol Hill like that. Right? But if you want me to dream about something, here's what I'm going to dream about. I'm going to dream about having a family where my children and grandchildren are financially secure and I can build a legacy of generational wealth. That's a dream that I have. I'm going to have a dream that because I have a certain amount of influence in my community with my people, that by the year 2070, we call this Project 2070, that B1 people can be the most financially intelligent, financially capable people on the planet. That's a dream I have, and I believe I can accomplish that dream. I believe that we're well on our way. I believe anybody who's been in this space for more than even 2 months, let alone those of you who've been here for a decade or 5 years and all that, you're super advanced. You're cutting edge. You're doing better. In terms of understanding economics, you understand it better than the average Jewish person, the average Asian person, the average white person. So all these other communities that we admire and look at as templates for economic success, oh, we've cracked the code on all of that. You understand all of this. This is what the Black Business School does best, right? That's a dream that I have. So dreams like that, I think, are the kinds of dreams that are just pragmatic enough that you can actually touch them, but also expansive enough that you can visualize a new reality. So here's a new reality for you. Here's a new vision that I hope you will consider embracing is that it is not required that Black youth in their 20s and 30s be financially desperate. There's nothing about being Black that says you're supposed to be in a struggle. There's nothing about being Black saying that you're supposed to be in a trap. There's nothing about being Black that says you're supposed to not be doing as well as the white kid next to you. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. A Black child in America with two smart parents, or even one smart parent, hope preferably two, because I've talked to you all about how family and wealth are connected. At least one or two smart parents will be better off than the average white person in America. 64% of all people live paycheck to paycheck. And they didn't say 64% of Black people. They said 64% of all people. So a lot of white folks are struggling too. A lot of white folks are in the trap too. The trap doesn't really discriminate. It just goes after the weakest link. So Black people, we tend to have a reputation of being the most easily duped, right? Or the most vulnerable in the sense that we don't have any friends in Washington or any protection. So if you are selling unhealthy processed food, you'll market that in the hood. You'll market your gun shops and liquor stores and everything else in the hood. You'll put your check cashing places in the hood because there's nobody who's going to say, "Hey, get that out of here." Right? We don't have the HOAs and all this other stuff to say, "Hey, you're violating the zoning laws here, sir. You got to get out of here." We don't. Now they do that, but we don't do that, right? So there are some areas where we might be a little bit more vulnerable, but when you're talking about preparation, I would tell you that it's fully within our capability to be prepared. At that point, you got to start looking at culture. So while we can point to systematic variables that certainly say that workers have it harder in America, that the economy is unequal, or that Black people are gonna be targeted in specific ways, that also does not negate the fact that there are 1,000 things that could be done culturally, 1,000 family specific adjustments that you can make right now that will help you and your kids to avoid almost all of that, right? Basic thing, invest for the child when they're a kid. That way they have two or $300,000 by the time they're 20 or 30 years old. They're fine. That right there takes them out of the trap, 80, 90% of it. They're not in the debt trap of student loans. They're not in the trap of having to get up and go to a job that they hate. They're not in the trap of extreme financial anxiety or financial desperation. They're not taking penitentiary chances to get a couple of dollars. They're not in a situation where they have to humiliate themselves in order to get money. That right there goes a very long way. And then if you add in some financial literacy, like, okay, I'm going to make sure you understand the difference between being a producer and a consumer, a renter versus an owner, an investor versus a spender, a saver versus a consumer, right? I'm going to explain all these things to you so that you know the difference. So you have an economic awareness that allows you to therefore navigate this economy in a way that empowers you as opposed to in a way that disempowers you. But that's really your job. That's really, I don't think the white ladies from the suburbs who teach in the Chicago public schools are ever going to feel the need to save black boys from economic desperation and despair. I don't believe that they care that much. And honestly, I don't really blame them. I think they probably, if I'm a white woman, I care about my white son. I'm not thinking about your son. That's your job. That's your son. That's not mine. Right. So when people walk around and say, well, they don't care about black people, I'm like, well, of course they don't. Are you thinking about white people every day? Are you worried about how they're gonna do? Well, some of y'all, yeah, some of y'all love others more than you love yourselves. But I'm not. I'm not. I don't have nothing against them. I just no. I'm not thinking about you. That's your kid. We got kids in our some of the kids in our neighborhood that are struggling. They happen to be white, and I'm like, dang, where's your daddy at? Where's your mama at? Like that's not my job. Like if you here, I'll feed you or something because you're a friend of my child. But I'm not raising you. Where's your parents at? Right. So the question that we ask before we sit around and speculate on whether or not white people care about black people, I think it's more worthy to speculate on whether or not black people care about black people. And then you can go deeper and speculate on why so many black people are waiting for white people to care about black people. Or even some of it, or even understand like why are some of us so stagnant? Because we're waiting for white people to take the lead. We tend to only really embrace stuff when we see we see it on TV, we see it in the media or whatever, right? Like Black Lives Matter. Yeah, Black Lives Matter. Well, they mattered before they started saying it on CNN. So why weren't you saying it before? Right? Or if you look at how many of our communities are just in absolute shambles, homicides and poverty and everything else, just dirty, messed up, broken down buildings. Whose job is it to come fix all that? Are we waiting for someone else to decide, oh, we need to help the black community? And then we're like, yeah, we got to help the black. Come on now. That don't make no sense. The black community is your community. It really starts with you. And it starts in your house. It starts with your kids. It starts with what policy you establish in that space. So when I lay out all these stats to you about people living paycheck to paycheck and so many people being in the struggle and the majority of millennials and Gen Zers stressing over finances, I want you to take a moment and meditate on that and say, I wonder if this could be prevented. And I can tell you, as a financial scientist, that is very, very easy to prevent all these issues. The biggest hurdle, the biggest thing you have to be able to do is think outside of the box. Because if you do exactly what they tell you to do, you're going to end up exactly where everyone else ends up. Where does it start? Well, you start with the public school system and you ask, well, what in the hell's going on? Why are these kids not learning essential skills for economic survival? And why are they not teaching them these things? I think that there's a reason for that. And then after you get into the conspiracy theories, then I want you to conspire for in your own favor. And I want you to say, okay, well, I got a conspiracy, or I'm going to make a plan that's going to thwart your plan, right? You've got Project 2025. Well, I've got Project 2035. So I'm not going to sit around and talk about Project 2025 very long. Now I'm going to talk about my Project 2035, which is I'm going to get my child and I'm going to make sure that I supplement their education to make sure that they understand real estate on a basic level, make sure they understand entrepreneurship on a basic level, make sure they understand all the different ways to make money. Some of y'all are even teaching your kids how to sell stock options and make money. And if you've seen how much money. I kid you not. I know people in this room right now who are making $5,000 to $10,000 every week selling stock options, and they're shocked at how easy it is. Like, oh my God, I didn't know you could do this. Yeah, right. A lot of people don't, but it's not hard, right? So you're teaching these things to your kids. These become essential skills. This becomes a scenario where your child has options. Your child doesn't feel like the paycheck is the only way for them to get money. They say, oh, no, I can make rental income over here. I can do something with my stock over there. I got a little business over here. I got a side hustle over there. I started a side hustle because my boss wouldn't give me a raise and I needed to make an extra $2,000 a month. So now me and my cousin are selling cupcakes at the church or whatever it is, right? Just something like that. Because what you don't, here's the crazy part. when I was talking to our 14-year-old, she's 14 now. When she was 11, and we were talking about careers and stuff, and y'all know how I am. Maybe I'm almost like a hippie parent or something because I'll be like when they say like what profession should I pick when I grow up, and I'm like, I don't know. You shouldn't define yourself by a job anyway, right? Like I say things like that. And we were talking about like careers and stuff, and I said, well, really. I said the only reason that people have to really obsess about these things is because they don't have enough money and they need to go to the very same capitalists that we complain about. We have to go to those capitalists to work for them in order to get money. I said, so most people um, have to spend a lot of time thinking about these things because number one, they don't their parents didn't really give them any like inheritance or any assets to start life with, right? That's not a cultural thing. So they're starting with nothing. And when you're struggling, you're broke, you have a deficiency, like a vitamin deficiency. Your deficiency is financial, which means that the people who can fulfill that void for you become your obsession. It's almost like or if you have a woman who is financially traumatized and she's financially desperate, she's looking for a rich man. And it's very natural to do that because money is the top priority. But how did money become the top priority? Well, it's not the top priority because it's the most important thing. Money is the top priority because right now you don't have any, right? If you had plenty of money, then money wouldn't be the top thing. It would be something else, right? So first thing is, I'm not interested in putting you out here financially desperate. So we're going to talk about making sure that you own some assets and all that stuff. I said, but also, um, I said, what's interesting to me is how people will derail their whole life because they can't solve what I call the $5,000, $6,000 problem. Let's call it the $6,000 problem because we have inflation. It used to be the $5,000 problem. And the $6,000 problem is, I said, instead of trying to figure out how to be a nurse or a lawyer or an engineer or a teacher and all these other things, where we spend the majority of our lives kind of pursuing these careers, I said, if you can solve the $6,000 problem, then you literally are freed from the trap. You're out of the matrix. You can go live your best life, do whatever you want, and be happy. And the $6,000 problem is, can I figure out how to make $6,000 a month somehow, some way, right? Maybe even without going to work. If you can solve the $6,000 problem, that kind of changes everything, right? And I want to help you understand this. I want you to imagine whatever or imagine a time where you were financially struggling. For some of you, you may still be in the struggle, and I'm with you. I promise you, I'm with you. I don't want to sound like I'm beating up on you, nothing like that. But if you're or when you were in the struggle, and I want you to think about how differently your life would have been if someone has just said, okay, um, here's a side hustle that you can do in your spare time, and it's going to make you $6,000 a month. Give me a yes or no if you agree that it would have made a big difference in your life. Give me a yes if you agree that your life would have been like, oh my God, I can sleep better now. I feel safe now. I can buy what I want. I can live in the neighborhood I want to live in. I can get the car that I need to get. I can get what I want for the kids, right? Think about how different your life would have, like, it would have been much easier, right? So I said to her, I said, okay, so I like to look at the complexities of life and try to condense them down, collapse them. There's a mathematical term for this. We take multiple dimensions, you collapse it into a smaller dimensional framework. And what does that mean? That means basically like instead of me figuring out how to do this, how to do this, how to solve this, how to figure this out, I try to say like, what's the one thing that if I solve this one thing, it's gonna fix 90% of the problems that I have. 90% of the issues that come with being black and all this and being, living in America and all that. And one of those quite issues is can you solve the $6,000 problem? Do you follow what I'm saying? Is this making sense or am I sounding, I hope I'm not sounding too weird and theoretical. I'm a professor. That's what we do. But I'm not going to insult your intelligence by thinking this idea is over anybody's head. I'll explain it enough so you'll get it. The $6,000 problem means that if I train my child on how to solve the $6,000 problem. Like, how do I make $6,000 a month somehow? And you can help them do that, right? If you've been investing for them and they've got $250,000 in assets, which is easy to do if you start early. If you don't start early, it's hard. But if you start early, $5 a day, $10 a day, something like that, like literally invest the same amount in the stock market that you probably spend on your car note or your cell phone bill, then they'll have that money. They'll have a couple $100,000. That right there solves a $6,000 problem. Because a person with $200,000 in assets can very easily, very safely make six to $10,000 a month just selling stock options on the stock that they own. If someone owns a couple $100,000 worth of Meta stock, they can make several $1,000s a month selling options on that stock, right? That's just one example, right? Or if they or and if that doesn't work, a side hustle. If you understand the basics of entrepreneurship and you get together with your friends and you start a business and you're 25, 26 years old, even if it's not a great business, even if it's not a business that's making a ton of money, but you just figure out how to make just that $6,000 a month in extra income, then that changes so much. So many things become easier. So much stress just kind of goes away, right? And that to me is what we want, right? We really want our kids to be happy. We want them to feel good about being black. We want them to feel good about living. I want my kids. I try to tell them. I don't know if they see it because I'm not 20, 25 anymore, right? And I just think about how much time I wasted worrying about stuff that wasn't even that important, worrying about small, lower level stuff when really I should have just been enjoying being 25. You know, it's like YOLO, let's have some fun. No, it's like, oh, how am I gonna get the money to pay the bills? I gotta work extra shifts. I gotta nobody want you should be doing all that when you're 25 or 30 years old. You should be happy, right? But I think you should be happy regardless, whatever age you are. But this is the thing. Money can be a big blocker of happiness. Money doesn't buy you happiness, but money can certainly block you from accessing it, right? Because it might force you to do things that are going to make you unhappy, right? So anyway, that's my 2 cents. That's my thought for today. I hope that this was helpful. I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. Just a quick reminder, make sure you're on the text list. If you haven't gotten on the text list, you can text the word morning to the phone number 87948. Text morning to 87948. Also, I see Aisha Verzi's in here today. Aisha, I mentioned your name the other day. If you want to share your number, Aisha does some stuff with insurance and financial planning, and and when you go talk to her, feel free to let her know that I sent you, and she'll be really nice to you. Also, what else? I'm going to for those of you that are doing the stock option stuff, I sent you all a Q&A and some other stuff that's going to get to you later on today. So if you have an interest in options, you want to learn more, text the word options to the number 87948. So text options to 87948. And if you'd like to get started with your financial journey, feel free to go to blackmoney101.com. That's blackmoney101.com. So anyway, God bless you guys. I will see you all tomorrow. Today, I'm going to see Dr. Claude Anderson this afternoon. I'm very excited. I'll give him your regards, and and if he drops any knowledge, which he always does, I will quickly come back and share it with you. So I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, and have a great day, everybody. Take care now.